Chapter 30. The Mastermind. The cool mountain air filled Lucas's lungs, energizing him. It smelled of fresh pine, the way he remembered from Christmas morning as a child, when his life had been simple and others shouldered the burdens of the world, a time when he controlled nothing except where he left his toys. His office overlooked a valley untouched by human hands, even before the power went out. Nobody had the means to reach this place without working transportation, not after he shut off everything the EMPs hadn't already destroyed. A wash of reds, pinks, and purples from the setting sun swept across the room. They cast a kaleidoscope of shadows on the beige walls. He couldn't imagine a better view anywhere on Earth. His world. His creation. He strained his ears, hearing nothing but silence. A miracle he wanted to applaud. The EMP and his Serbia cipher had worked in perfect concert, turning off every man-made noise. Every circuit board rendered useless, leaving only a peaceful quiet in its wake. Lucas had saved only those things he wished to save from the utter destruction he caused. Lucas had designed every square inch of the facility, carved into the mountain itself. Crews had worked non-stop for almost 10 years, constructing this monument to his genius. All paid for by the same taxpayers who sat at home in the dark, waiting to bow down before their new leader. The leader none of them knew yet, and many would never know. Lucas planned to use his puppets to rule the world, while he pulled the strings from inside his secret fortress. No sense getting his hands dirty. An apocalyptic stronghold impervious to the outside world, except to those he allowed inside. A perfect shelter invisible to anyone wandering around below or flying above. Not that many aircraft still flew. Only those Lucas allowed in the air remained in one piece. He had disabled the rest, including the thousands filled with passengers, when he flipped the switch. It sucked to be them. Nobody had a better life than Lucas. He determined who prospered or suffered in this post-apocalyptic world. Those who lived and those who died. A god among gods. Lucas had even employed the angry mob that had kidnapped him from that pathetic bunker. A grand performance he had directed and starred in. They stood guard below him now, serving his will. All those ex-CIA agents reduced to rent-a-cops within his mountain lair. Better security than the Secret Service, who had failed to protect the former president when the Serbia cipher downed Air Force One. He had even built and equipped the crappy bunker where he sent Ulysses and Sue. It had felt claustrophobic after only a few days living with them. Lucas knew he had to meet her, just to see how bright she was. Had the agency's assessment been correct? After their brief time together, he concluded that he had nothing to fear. Her limited skill set and lack of refinement would never allow her to derail his plans. A drone buzzed past his balcony, shattering the moment. They flew them 24/7, providing a constant set of eyes in the sky. Just as the builders had kept the bunker's inner workings out of earshot, the pilots were under strict orders to keep the drones out of his sightline. He craved silence as much as he valued his own safety and privacy. A 166 IQ demanded silence to conceive his plans for his world. The world he created depended on him and his brilliant mind to keep it functioning. His thoughts drifted, replaying his text exchange with Sue. He chuckled at the elaborate mind games he had played with her. An unwitting victim locked in a basement by a moronic madman, while he savored the natural beauty of the Rockies. A situation almost too good to be true. Lucas regretted not having a camera trained on her so he could watch her descent into madness. She had to be losing her mind, convinced that she had the power to turn the lights back on. What did she think she could accomplish with a room full of antique junk? He hoped that during their limited time together, he had planted enough seeds of paranoia to drive her over the edge. She deserved nothing less after scoring 173 on her IQ test. Without that score, Lucas would never have known she existed. A complete nobody. But now that he had found her, he had to rid the world of her. No sense in risking she'd figure everything out, even if she didn't seem bright enough to defeat him. No sense letting someone with a higher IQ survive in his world. Stupid people were much easier to manipulate. The office door banged hard against its stop, yanking him back to the present. Only one person would be so bold, or so stupid as to barge into his office unannounced. He hated her even more than Sue, but she was a necessary evil, at least for the moment. "What can I do for you, Nancy?" Lucas spoke without giving her the courtesy of eye contact. She disgusted him, and it wasn't just her looks. "Don't be so familiar with me. My title is Madam President, and you're here only because of me." Lucas chuckled, sinking into his plush office chair. She frowned in response. He had a hard time picturing her wearing any expression other than the pinched, sour look of someone who had just bitten into a lemon. A most unpleasant woman. But a woman of pliable morals who wanted nothing but power. An easy mark for a man of his intellect to manipulate. "Nancy, you're the president because I crashed Air Force One. Then I flew your husband's helicopter into a mountain. I made you and freed you. Don't you ever forget what I did for you. You live at my will." His eyes bored into her. She broke eye contact first, wrapping her flabby arms around herself. He had broken her, drained every last drop of her bravado. Lucas suppressed a laugh, letting the smile spread across his face instead. He had already won. For the time being, he needed allies he could control, and Nancy Johnson filled the role. "What can I do for you, Nancy?" The acting president sighed, avoiding his gaze as she spoke. Her voice cracked as the words spewed out. "I'm worried about the progress we're making. We need to move faster. Seize power now." He swallowed the laugh before it escaped, turning it into a cough. Lucas held all the power, and he didn't need to disguise his disgust of this pathetic woman. But he didn't need another fight at the moment either. She needed to understand the hierarchy of their arrangement. "Things are moving according to my schedule. What makes you think otherwise?" "Rogue American and foreign military units along with various gangs are wreaking havoc throughout the country. We need to regain control. Restore order." His blood pressure spiked. He didn't need a lecture from an insubordinate. The thought of ordering her death gave him joy, but he had to exercise patience. "I didn't tell you to commit treason." He laced the words with the contempt that he held for this woman. "What?" Her reply was sharp, even as her face registered defeat. "You're the one who thought you could work with the axis of evil to bring down the United States. Inviting them to deliver those EMPs over American soil was sheer foolishness. I had to turn off the world's power to stop them from continuing their attacks. Total darkness everywhere. If you had only stuck with the plan, we wouldn't be having these problems." She cackled like a madwoman. Her eyes blazed, boring holes through him. If looks could kill, he'd be dead. But only Lucas held the power to kill. "You think a CIA analyst knows better than me? I made foreign policy." Her voice dripped with the superiority she thought she still had. She had forgotten her role in this game. "Nancy, I am the CIA. They put their trust in computers, and I've owned those computers for over 10 years. Where do you think the plan to reset the world came from? Continue fulfilling your limited role according to my instructions, and everything will work out. Or you can join the former president and your husband." Fear clouded her eyes. She dropped her gaze to the floor, refusing to meet his gaze. The reaction he demanded from his subordinates, and everybody was his inferior. "Okay, what do you want me to do?" A smile spread across his face. His word would prevail. Nobody could survive in this world without electricity. He held the power in his hands like Thor wielding his hammer. "Contact the military commanders still loyal to you. Have them mop up the loose ends. Destroy the gangs and foreign enemies. These clowns are sporting obsolete Soviet surplus equipment smuggled into the country decades ago. That's the only reason they're still operational. They're no match for the U.S. military. Easy peasy." "What about this Sue woman? I understand she's smarter than you. Do we need to worry about her?" Her voice shed the fear, taking on a sing-song tone that grated on his nerves. He'd have to deal with her sooner rather than later. "Sue is busy with a fool's errand. Even if she manages to survive the Major's wrath, she isn't capable of stopping me. Worry about your own tasks, not mine. I'm in control." She glared at him. The old cliché about looks killing applied to her stare. Her throat worked as she swallowed hard before she continued. Why don't you have that brute Ulysses kill her? I thought you had him watching her to keep her in line. It seems like you've lost your grip. Lucas flexed his fists, taking a deep breath to calm himself. He reminded himself that he still needed Nancy, at least for now. Once she outlived her usefulness, he'd dispose of her without hesitation. It couldn't happen soon enough. The Major, one of your rogue military officers, has complicated the situation. Besides, Ulysses is a moron and too righteous to murder a woman. Trust me, we'll never see either of them again. I've already handled both of them. If there's nothing else, I'm quite busy. Nancy Johnson nodded, stood, and stomped toward the door. She slammed his office door as she left. He giggled at the impotent gesture. Let her believe she had won something. A foolish woman who wouldn't recognize her futility until it was far too late. Lucas turned his attention to his computer after her exit. She had overstayed her welcome. He took a series of slow, deep breaths, willing his heart rate to slow. Face-to-face confrontation drained him like nothing else. Life worked best when he sat behind a keyboard, a place where he thrived. He considered harassing Sue again, using her discomfort to energize him, but Lucas let the idea go, returning to his work. He'd let fate run its course without his involvement. Sue would fail at her impossible task, and then the Major would kill her. End of story. The brute would do Lucas's dirty work, eliminating any remaining threat. A much cleaner plan than interfering again. Not that she ever played in the same league as Lucas. She played T-ball while he dominated the major leagues. Perhaps she had faked the IQ test results. What other explanations could there be? With the thought of Sue's fate fading from his mind, Lucas pulled up the camp surveillance feeds on his giant monitor. He scanned the cameras for Nancy, making sure she'd follow his commands. She could become a serious problem if she went off script. Another wild card for him to deal with. When he opened the feed from camera 17, he found Nancy shuffling toward the landing zone at the summit of the mountain. Her shoulders drooped and her feet scuffed the concrete ramp as she walked. Lucas couldn't help the grin spreading across his face. His mind games had worked, containing all of his problems. Movement from a camera feed at the edge of his display caught his eye. It came from a feed he had minimized and left open. He clicked on it, expanding the window in the center of the monitor. The watchtower at the southeast corner of the property filled the screen. A man in camouflage lay motionless, slumped over the railing. Lucas pulled back the camera's view, searching for the second guard. He stood at the far side of the platform with his back to his fallen partner, his eyes fixed on something deep in the tree line that Lucas couldn't see. Like watching a horror movie as a teenager late on a Saturday night, Lucas wanted to shout at the screen, warn the clueless idiot about his impending doom sneaking up behind him. Too bad they left the audio functions out of their surveillance system. While he watched, the guard's body jerked, toppling over the railing to the ground below. A 30-foot drop onto the rocky ground. Instant death if he wasn't already dead. Lucas's breath caught in his throat. He hammered the keys, switching to the adjacent camera, the one position farther back from the platform. He watched a figure in camouflage line up his rifle sights on the camera. A muzzle flash bloomed from the barrel a split second before the camera went dead. What the? He couldn't believe his own eyes. Nobody knew where they hid the bunker. Who on earth would have the balls and the ability to attack him? His hands and feet tingled, his head swam. Lucas's breathing had climbed into ragged gasps. A feeling of helplessness returned with a vengeance. He needed to get his body under control before he passed out. Restore his godhood. Nobody could oppose him. Falling back on an exercise from his youth, Lucas closed his mouth, pinching off his right nostril. As he inhaled, he concentrated on filling his belly, keeping his chest still. After 30 seconds of slow, deliberate breathing, the anxiety faded. He held the rhythm for another 30 seconds before turning his attention back to the feeds. Lucas needed intelligence before he could act. His fingers danced across the keyboard, cycling through the camera feeds. Dozens of men, dressed in various types of woodland camouflage, advanced on his position from multiple directions. All carried military-grade hardware, moving with the practiced efficiency of a professional. But what explained their mismatched gear? A group of mercenaries? How had they found the bunker? He cycled through the remaining watchtowers and found dead bodies slumped across each platform. At the rate of advance, Lucas calculated he had 10 minutes to escape. What kind of mercenaries could coordinate an assault like this? They had to be something other than soldiers of fortune. Lucas snatched the phone, punching the number for the helipad. "Ready my helicopter. We need to be in the air within 5 minutes." He slammed down the receiver before they replied. He grabbed his laptop and swept his eyes across the security feeds one last time. When he reached the third feed from the left in the third row, his heart froze in his chest. Ulysses stood in a clearing below, eating up the ground in massive strides as he charged the main approach to the bunker. The camera zoomed in and focused on him. Lucas read his lips as the giant sprinted toward the hidden door. "I'm coming for you, Lucas." His blood turned to ice in his veins. His muscles refused to respond to his commands. He sat frozen in his once comfy office chair, staring in horror as his enormous strides closed the distance. Lucas could almost feel the ground shaking from the pounding of the man's feet. Sheer, unstoppable destruction headed for him. The thought of being beaten to death snapped him out of it. His legs shook as he stood, sprinting for the exit. He reached the ramp leading toward the helipad within 30 seconds. A world record. When he designed the bunker, Lucas had ordered the builders to hollow out a natural crater at the summit, creating a landing zone for 4 helicopters. When he burst through the blast doors sealing off the landing zone, the rotors on 2 Blackhawks already spun. Nancy stood nearby, shooting him a questioning look as he sprinted past her toward his waiting aircraft. He didn't spare her a second glance. The crew chief helped Lucas onto the flight deck, pressing a headset into his hands as he strapped in. A pilot and co-pilot, both dressed in fatigues, were running through their checklist. With no time for normal procedures, he pushed the mic button. "Shout out the other Blackhawk. Let it clear the mountain first, then jog west using the mountain as cover." "Sir, we still have to finish our pre-flight procedures." "Now, soldier, do what I say and don't question it." "Sir? Yes, sir." Nancy's helicopter lifted off and banked east. A moment later, Lucas's aircraft shuddered as its skids left the ground. As they cleared the rim of the crater, the pilot banked hard west, keeping the mountains between them and their attackers. "We're gonna make it." "RPG!" The warning came over the radio as Nancy's Blackhawk ceased to exist, swallowed by a fireball. His pilot fought with the shockwave from the explosion, struggling to hold them on course. "Hold on!" A voice screamed over the radio. Lucas hoped his gamble about Ulysses not having more than 1 RPG was right. If not, they'd face the same fate as Nancy. Sudden death. "Come on!" Bullets pinged off the helicopter's fuselage as the pilots wrestled with the controls. The aircraft danced through the air like an addict on ecstasy at a rave. Lucas's stomach somersaulted in time, threatening to reveal his lunch. Why'd he pick a copter for his escape? His eyes landed on the .50 caliber machine gun bolted to the flight deck. It sat unmanned because the door gunner hadn't made the flight. Lucas considered playing hero for half a second before admitting he didn't know how to fire the weapon. He prayed the crew chief would find his nerve and step up to fight off the attacking soldiers, to stop Ulysses and his men. The shrill cascade of cockpit alarms cut through the chaos. Warning lights strobed across the instrument panel, turning it into a crazy Christmas tree. Lucas didn't need to know how to fly a helicopter to understand that these flashing lights and screaming alarms promised nothing good. His life couldn't end this way. "Hold on, we're going down!" Lucas hated thrill rides. He preferred his computers to amusement parks any day of the week, so when the helicopter pitched like an out-of-control roller coaster, he had to swallow the bile burning his throat. Its frantic spinning plunged him toward the rocky cliff below. He longed to scream, but he couldn't catch his breath. His world dissolved into a single nauseating blur. Pilots fought with the controls, looking like amateurs thrown into the ring with Mike Tyson. Overmatched and beaten before the first round ended. For one fleeting moment, it seemed like they might regain control. Black smoke poured out of the left engine in a thick, greasy column. He told himself they would make it to the airport and land with only one engine remaining. They had to make it. Then the canopy glass beside the pilot's head imploded. His head slumped forward, trapping the cyclic under his limp body. The helicopter pitched, plummeting toward the ground. The co-pilot fought with everything he had, but physics had already written the outcome. The Blackhawk struck a rocky outcrop, tumbling down the mountainside. Pain radiated through Lucas's body. A wicked case of vertigo, the shriek of tearing metal, and a suffering beyond comprehension overwhelmed his senses all at once. He had entered hell on earth. When Lucas thought he could endure no more, his world went black. Blissed unconsciousness reached out and carried him away from everything.